Greetings of peace, everyone. This is Bassem Shaban with you once again. I am the director of the Peace Institute, and we are together for another episode of Faith and Society with our regular guest speakers, Pastor Stanley Murray, representing the Christian community, and Imam Muhammad Musri, representing the Muslim community. So today we're going to jump into a very important topic related to a new generation that's really impacting our society, and that's known as Generation Z. So these are young people who are going now into the workplace for the first time, and they are actually impacting how people look at the element of work, the element of relationships, of many issues that traditionally people have been used to for a long time, but now things are changing in their perspective and based on their importance. Whether we're talking about how they work, what kind of relationships they have, what kind of thoughts and expectations they have from leadership, whether it's corporate leadership, government leadership, or even religious leadership. So this is the topic that we're going to tackle today with our speakers. And as always, we'll start with Pastor Stanley Murray. You're muted, Pastor.
Sorry. Thank you for having me on today. It's always a pleasure to be with you and my good brother, Imam Muhammad. And I just want to start with where we're going to probably be coming from off the cuff is places of worship. There was a statistic that said about 18% of millennials are not religiously affiliated anywhere. Well, now Generation Z is up to like 40% that are saying they're not religiously affiliated to any religion. And so what we're seeing now is the breed of, is the place of worship needed? Do I need it to really exist in the world? I know what my grandparents told me, and maybe my parents kind of went over it a little bit, but by also seeing how much of a slide the Generation Z parents have slid with their religious beliefs, that much more has transpired into the realm of the Generation Z. And it goes into a fact of when I think about the Bible, how David had one impropriety, and his son Solomon couldn't get enough of various women. And so what am I saying? They call it the sins of the father, if you will. But when you think about it, it is up to us as the senior and the seasoned people of our religions to make sure that our children and our grandchildren are getting what they need. There's a scripture that says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they grow old, they won't depart from it. But these young people now have not even grasped the training part of it. They're not sticking around to be trained. So when they get to that age that they should be able to go back to it, they have nothing to go back to. And so that's a very, very scary demographic for the world itself, because how important it is for them to have a stability with God, to know that they can't do everything on their own, to realize that they can't use substitutions like alcohol and drinking and drugs and lustful living in order to find happiness, when in reality, joy is something that comes not from an emotion, but the emotion of God itself. And so that has to be taught, that has to be trained, that has to be embedded in the heart, the mind, and the spirit, so that generation, not just Z, but the generation after, can be able to have something to stand on to move forward in the world. And so my prayer is that, once again, us who are in leadership positions, we will instill and understand that we may have to change some of the way we bring our practices to them, but we shouldn't change the foundation of how it is brought. But we definitely have to look at some other avenues, how we bring it to them. How do we draw their attention? How do we get their insight? How do we allow them to openly be able to sit and understand what is expected of them? Because what I'm seeing a lot going on is the expectation of life doesn't seem to be a very high level kind of thing. Children are coming in, they don't really have a high expectation. Well, hey, did you get an A or a B? I passed, and they're kind of just comfortable with that. They're open, they're closed-ended when you have conversation. How was your day? Fine. What'd you do today? Nothing. How are you feeling? I'm okay. And it's kind of just it. So they're internalizing things that go back 2 or 3 generations. That was the dinner table. That was the time that we communicated and got to find out what was going on with one another. And that is now becoming a hidden track. Young men don't know how to jump start a car, change a tire. Young women, and not that I'm segregating between the two, don't know how to cook other than a microwave, turn it to 2 minutes and watch it burn. Those kinds of things were adamant, not because it was a work thing, but it was a belief system. What I did had value and it had worth. And I learned grandma's recipes and I learned dad's way of doing things, so that when I became a parent or when I became a father, I could do those types of things. And not to get too far left, because I know my brother Imam's going to bring it home. Even the Pope quoted out here recently that this generation, they're spending more time with pets than they are having kids. And so you can see the demographics of what's going on. They would rather have pets than children. And we know that, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be fruitful and to multiply by those who come into the realm of marriage, so that can procreate and build that system of worth and value. And now that has become obsolete to, animals and pets that they want to utilize, rather than saying, I don't want to have to raise anything up other than feeding it through a cage or putting some food in its bowl.
Well, I have to say, having my children, that Generation Z, I could observe firsthand many of the changes between my generation and their generation. And there are reasons why this generation is not committed to one thing, because they have been flooded with choices and competing and sometimes equal choices. When it comes to our generation, we didn't have, the cell phones and the internet and the social media and all of that. But in their generation, they don't know the world without that. They have always had that. And, they're not going to be loyal, say, to Facebook, because the next social media, Instagram, will come and they will jump to that. And then TikTok will come and they will jump to that. And so they feel, what is the latest and greatest of technology they want to go to? And they do everything in their world in that respect. They feel, we don't have, as prior generations, to commit ourselves to one thing. We should always shop around and look for what is shiner and brighter and newest hip hop out there. Now, when it comes to religion, in terms of commitment, as you said, unfortunately, because many of the parents, those 18-20% that were committed or did not commit to religion, and now their children are double that, around 40%, is noticeable because their parents did not take them to any house of worship, did not spend any time discussing God with them. And therefore, they grew up not thinking this is an important thing to think about. They just bypassed religion altogether. And they lived in a world where the world kept them busy. The social media and the connections in the world, they can't get their head out of their phone to see in front of them. Mm. So religion played less and less important role in socialization, where people used to go to the house of worship to socialize, to meet friends, to get to know their neighbors. Now they don't have to. And they do it on their phones and their social media. The other thing is a lot of young people, they shop religion online and they want religion delivered to them the same way, they get their deliveries from Amazon and they get their, in our generation, we used to turn on the TV, go to watch the TV, and we had to remember the schedule to know when the show will show. Now it's on demand. They see it on their time, on their schedule, on their phone. So the whole delivery system of news, information, religion has changed, and they expect us as faith leaders to be online, to deliver to them the message where they are. And they're not going to come on Sunday morning or Friday afternoon, or they want to, turn on their schedule any time of the week to hear what they want to hear. There is also this fuzziness that everything goes. People sort of put all religions in one category as spirituality. And they say, well, I had my dose of spirituality. So, for example, I did meditation today, and that came from, Hinduism or Buddhism. I listened to this speaker who came from this religion or that religion. So to them, they say, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. I don't belong to a particular denomination, but I am a spiritual person that I want to fit with everybody in a global sense. So it is hard to understand their way because we were used to more structure and more specific path. For them, they have a multitude of choices and they keep hopping between these choices. They do that with their jobs, they do that with their studying. In our generation, a kid would know, I'm going to be a doctor or an engineer or a policeman. But now you ask a second-year college students, what are you going to be? He said, I don't know. I'm still thinking. It's like, when you're going to decide, they may change their major multiple times. And so this is the overall trend. So we have to adjust to this reality from a point of faith and say, our goal of delivering faith and values to this generation has to accommodate and adapt to be able to reach these people and with proper guidance. Otherwise, we lose it all. That's what I think.
So what do you guys think that impact will have on traditional religions moving into the future? Because a lot of the statistics that we've looked at, and we'll pull up one before the end of the show, showcases that most of the Generation Z generation is becoming not only non-traditional religious, but non-believing at all. So that's increasing, it seems, leaps and bounds. So what do you guys think about that as well?
It's funny you bring that to light, Brother Bassam. I just watched a documentary on this new word of church, or if you will. And there was a place of worship in California where it was a lot of just talk, not from any particular book or Bible, Quran, nothing. It was more just an enlightening of one person to a group of people. At the end of it, they stayed after and they had beer and pizza with the pastor. And not that drinking's wrong one way or the other. However, the Bible does say, stumble not your brother. You don't know who might be recovering from alcohol. So you don't think of the liabilities. And what I'm seeing now is it's a liberality that brings up a hint of Sodom and Gomorrah to me, where basically the focus was people did what they wanted. Literally, whatever they wanted to do, they were doing in these two cities. So when you look at that from that standpoint, now it's kind of where we're headed. Everybody's got a voice and they're all speaking at the same time. Over here, listen to me. No, over here, I get to speak. No, but because you said that, I got a problem over here. Well, wait a minute. You two spoke, so now I got a problem. So there's 3 of us in the room and we got 4 problems. I mean, it's just going on and on and on and on. And the Bible tells us that, in all things, there should be some decency and there should be some order. But how do you define what's decent? Because now, as you can tell, I'm going to just speak about it because it's not rhetoric, it's not gossip. New Year's Eve, we had a ceremony for the ball that drops in New York every year, except this year, they were drinking alcohol, live shots, live shots on TV, where usually that was a family show, where the family would sit and they would watch the ball drop, especially people who were from New York. They got a chance to see, some of the things they missed, and they shared it with their families and their children. I was there in 1978, or I was there in 1990, and now they're watching these hosts who are normally on the news, right? With a straight face, who talk about serious issues, who talk about deadening things. And now they're speaking from an inebriated mind, giggling and talking all over each other. And it just looked very unprofessional. And it therefore lets you know that this liberality has no boundaries, has no bounds. I go back to Sodom and Gomorrah. There were no rules. Whatever we wanted to do, we could do. Whatever we wanted to say, we could say. And if you hear anything now that's going on over social media, somebody wants to be heard. Somebody wants, and then on top of it, not out of gratefulness, but out of entitlement, somebody expects something from being heard. Dangerous ground we're playing on right now. Very dangerous ground. And of course, if you voice anything about that, then if you're not with us, you're against us. And we grew up in a society where it's okay to have differences, but we still can live together in peace. We can still live together for a common cause. So I asked the question of today with the 3 of us here, what's the common cause of what we're existing for right now?
I think for Generation Z, there is just me and I want to be happy the way I see it. And therefore, there are no rules. I define my own rules. So that's their common cause. And you and I have to accept that, and we have to, because they're entitled. We told them as a society, you're entitled to be happy the way you choose to be, okay? And society has to respect and let you be. So if you're a man, you want to dress like a woman. If you want to be called he, she, it, whatever you want, everything goes. I mean, today, it's very hard to even communicate because some people, get offended. You look at a person who looks like a man, and he says, "But I want you to address me as a she." But I don't know what to do, and sometimes even tough for the police to deal with this situation. So if there are no rules in society, what I want to go back to is the purpose of religion. What the Bible is for, what the Quran is for, is to give us framework, to give us set of guidelines and rules that we have a common purpose and we can all agree on what is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what's acceptable, what's not. And we would agree that because God gave us this, it is for God. It does not discriminate. So it's good for all of us. But now, anytime you say there is such a rule, and they said, but I don't accept the rule. Who put this rule? Even if it's God, I don't accept it because it doesn't fit me. And a society without rules might be what you said, a Sodom and Gomorrah type situation with no rules. And then there's more burden on the government to kind of put rules, but those rules are constantly under attack and they're changing. So when a child grows up in a society that does not define boundaries and rules and etiquettes, then it's very hard to deal with them without running afoul of what they think is right or wrong. So, today, like you said, even if you express your opinion, just because it's not liberal enough to accommodate everybody, they're going to accuse you of, you are anti this or anti that, or when you're simply following the rules that used to be there.
And I'll go back to say this, my brother. They had a session with some millennials, and they asked millennials why they use Christianity as a part of it. They said, why did you leave the church? And they had various reasons why. However, none of them were from the mind frame God told me to. They were all from how I felt.
Yeah.
My emotions. And when you lean on that, basically you're going back to the book of the Bible where it says, do not lean on your own understanding. Well, your own understanding is always your emotions, how I feel about something. And if I don't like it, then it can't be right. Even though it may be good, even though it doesn't feel good to me, it may be good for me. And so we're now in a society where even with our young people today, you have to actually stop and explain everything that happens with them to them for them to move into something and move into nuts. And there are times, and I tell even my own sons, son, there are times I don't have the time to explain to you what I need you to do. I just need you to do it. Because the Bible does it the same way.
Jesus, trust me.
Exactly. Just trust that whatever I'm telling you is for your benefit and for your good and for your safety, for your protection, your correction, and your direction. You have to just lean on my dad's looking out for me. Well, let's use that in the spiritual sense. How many, we'll use baby boomers to millennials to Z generations now, really believe that God is looking out for them.
Yeah, probably in the Z, very small percentage. And I had those conversations where they say, I don't know God, and I know the people who speak on behalf of God, and I don't necessarily agree with them, so I cannot lean on that. But that is precisely why religion is there and faith is there. The word faith implies trust in something you don't fully understand, but because God said that it is good for you in the long run, because things sometimes not very clear. You cannot explain them in 30 seconds. And a lot of that is what we are seeing today, that people pay very costly price for small mistakes because they didn't want to listen to God. They didn't want to listen to their parents. They don't want to listen to the general norms. And so, but my hope is, you know, what comes after Z is double A, you know, that we will have an double A or A plus generation because we would have hit bottom and people will get to a point where they feel this lack of rules society, lack of, you know, framework society where everything goes has led us to confusion and chaos and everybody lost. And there is a bounce back swing in the other direction. The pendulum will swing all the way to we want rules and we want to abide by these rules in order to have the society. And I think the next generation will bounce back because they would have seen that, you know, Generation Z did not do well. You know, because if you study history, you're going to see that progression and they're going to realize what, you know, the baby boomers had versus the millennials versus Generation Z. So I think, on the other hand, religion will catch up. It will reinvent itself to deliver the right message at the right time, at the right place. And, you know, we have to have leaders to do that in order to help the Generation Z or the next generation, double A, to really bounce back, because this is going to impact everything in society, from family, no children, to, you know, and marriage, even housing. You know, I was listening to some economists who said this Generation Z does not want to own homes.
No.
And for everybody else, owning a home was their life project, the American dream. They said, no, these people don't want to own a home. They don't want a responsibility. They want to hop from one apartment to another, and they will just rent. They don't want to own a car. They want, you know, to like lease a car or like use Lyft or Uber to go from one place to another. So they don't want to have any responsibility. They don't want to have responsibility for themselves or for anyone else. So it has a huge impact on our economic system, on our social system, on our educational system. Many of them don't want to go to college. You know, the reports are year after year now, the number of students going to college has dropped. And many of them feel like, I don't want to go to college because going to college is going to lead to what? To this structured system where I have to work for a certain employer.
And I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do that.
Well, and you brought up something and I know we got to go, but if I can just throw this in, Brother Bass. They had a 60 Minutes report, and it was called The Big Quit, or The Big Resignation. And this generation is saying that if at this point in the game, if you don't agree, just quit. You no longer have to be oppressed by the mindset of working somewhere you don't want to be for 20, 25 years. You just move from place to place until you find what you like. And if that means the next 10, 15 years, it takes you to do that, you just do that. Think about the mental health situation. This group that has been through the pandemic, the stress, the loneliness of they're trapped in, as you said earlier, Brother Bass, about their phones and things like that. Technology has now allowed them to have more anxiety, more depression type situations. Are they getting counseling? Who knows? Are they going to get what they need to be able to function in the world properly to help build back up some of the things that have been lost? Who knows? even with their own health care. Are they going to get what they need so their bodies can maintain the way they would need to be maintained over the years? I mean, there's so many different things that are out. I mean, and even economically, their spending of the dollar. As you just said, they're not buying cars. They will get a 3-bedroom apartment for 3 people.
Yeah.
So they'll split the rent.
Yeah.
So now in reality, you got one apartment with 3 people who are all splitting the rent. That's 2 people who could have been paying, not that it's not for the apartments to make money, but think about it. That's now 2 people who are not in the economy system,
Yeah.
right? Because they're all in it together. And it may be fundamentally sound to do that, but just the mindset of it all. Nobody wants to be the guy. Nobody wants to be the young lady to say, you know what, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to push forward to get some things done.
And to go with what you're saying,
yes, sir.
there is one of the very popular proposal among this generation is what's called an income for everybody.
Mhm.
You know, you work or you don't work, you should get X amount of money every month, okay? A minimum income that the government should pay, say a couple $1,000s a month or $3,000 a month to every individual, regardless if they work or not. And this is very popular proposal among this generation because they feel like, I don't have to work to live, you know, the government should give me this check so I can, you know, go and have some beer and enjoy myself. And that's it, split it in the apartment with my roommates and that's it. So they want to not work at all, no production. And, you know, as a nation, we already have transferred out most of our manufacturing to other countries. We have become more service oriented. And, you know, think about it. Some of the biggest companies in our country are like Facebook, that doesn't manufacture anything,
Mhm.
or Google, that doesn't manufacture anything, you know, but these are hundreds of billions of dollars companies or trillions of dollars. And right now, our economy is fully dependent on other countries to make everything for us.
Mhm.
So, like you said, not just they don't know how to change a tire or change the oil on the car, but they can't do anything that lift a finger. So it goes back to religion. I think God gave us a religion to create structure, to give us guidelines, how to live, how to be productive, how to form a family, how to be a responsible individual, how to take care of this earth, this planet and its inhabitants and be a responsible, productive citizen. And this liberal life has watered it down to the point that this generation expect, okay, government should give me a stimulus check, you know, not just when there's a crisis, but every month for the rest of my life. And I should have healthcare the same way. And I should have free education and free this and free that. And I don't have to work. And I don't have to get married. And I don't have to, you know, manufacture anything.
Mhm.
So that cannot last, honestly. We cannot go on after, you know, the baby boomers and the millennials are gone. This generation is going to run into the wall.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Once again, it's a very interesting topic, and I'm sure this will not be the last time we talk about it. But I did want to close with one quick, you know, statistic, especially as we were talking about the role of religion in our world with the Generation Z young people. So this graph showcases a comparison between the elders before 1946, the boomers that were mentioned today, Generation Xers, millennials, and Generation Z. And as we were saying about believers and non-believers, the big number that really pops up is between, generally the same with non-believers in the atheistic category, all the way until it doubles in Generation Z. So a very big shift of how people are looking at religion. And this is to the points that you guys were making in the conversation. So only time will tell with most things, but I think people of faith are, as you've both mentioned, are concerned with how things are going. And at the same time, there's great hope in many of the Generation Z young people, because there are positive things from what we've seen in research, that they are more socially responsible. For example, they're demanding more from companies to be ethical and really care about social issues. So we can see the balance playing out just like in every generation, but this is a very new concept and new approach in how we are reading the younger generation, and who's going to actually build the future of not only this nation, but the world as a whole. So we'll see what happens in the near future if we live that long.
All right.
So thank you very much, both of you, for your consistent wisdom and insight. And our viewers, we look forward to seeing you on another episode. So keep the faith and keep the peace. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, our distinguished speakers, for your time.
Thank you.
You.